Hello students. Today, if you're watching this particular Edpuzzle, you're going to be learning about elastic potential energy. I know that's a mouthful. You'll get a lot of experience with what that means. But just for now, elastic, right? If something's elastic, it's stretchy. We're going to look at elastic potential energy. Potential meaning it could happen, right? If you have potential, you didn't do anything yet, but it could happen. So elastic potential energy just means it's the energy stored in something basically when you stretch it. Okay, that's all elastic potential energy means. Some common examples of this are springs. If you stretch or compress a spring, you might give it elastic potential energy. A lot of you guys like to shoot rubber bands and stuff like that. That could give you elastic potential energy. Or in my case today, the reason I'm dressed up like this is we're going to look at elastic potential energy in the context of these bows here. So before we begin the Edpuzzle, I want you to think about what variables with these two bows might affect the elastic potential energy. Okay, what might give more or less energy? So here's these two bows here. You pull the bows back like this. This one's pretty loose and easy to pull. This one is rather challenging to pull. But go ahead and think about what variables, what different things might lead to more or less elastic potential energy. Alright class, now we're going to do the fun part. I have an arrow knocked here, and in just a moment we will fire it. But the first variable I want you to think about is how far I pull this string back. So I could pull the string a little bit, or I could pull it a lot. So before I shoot this, I'm going to shoot one arrow pulled a little bit, one arrow pulled far back. I want you to think about, is that going to make a difference with the energy it gives this arrow? Do you think that variable right there, how far I pull this string, will make a difference? So let's go ahead and find out now. First, I'm only going to pull it a little bit. I'm going to pull it maybe to my elbow, my left arm's elbow, and I'm going to release. And you can see how far that arrow went, how far it shot out, how much energy it had. Now I'm going to pull this bowstring back really far. I'm going to change the distance that I stretch the string. Let's see how that affects my energy. So you can see that arrow came out a lot faster, went a lot farther, and one last time for good measure. If I pull it back really far, like if I was actually shooting, you can see how it affects your energy. Alright, so you just looked at one variable that might affect energy. Now let's look at another. This bow right here, the string is really stiff. It's really difficult to pull this string back. If I show you, I have to put a lot of effort in to pull this string. Whereas with this bow, it's a lot looser. The string is a lot easier to pull. It's a lot less stiff. I barely have to do any work, and I can pull this bow a lot easier. So, what do you students think? Do you think the looser bow will give more energy? Or do you think the stiffer bow will give more energy? In order to test this, I'm going to draw the bow the same length. I'm going to draw it to, let's say, my first pocket here. And then I'll shoot it, and we'll see which bow gives more energy. Again, important to note, both will be drawn to the same length. So here we go. Draw this to my pocket. And you can see the arrow didn't even reach the target. It barely went anywhere. Now let's use the stiffer string. This bow is harder to pull back. We'll go ahead and knock our arrow in there. I'm going to draw it back to the same exact spot. I'm going to draw it to my pocket, and what's going to happen? That arrow came flying out a lot faster, a lot farther, and hit my target. So I want you to think about, what did you just see in this video? What things affected the elastic potential energy of a bow? And again, it applies to all elastic potential energy. It's the same if you're talking about a spring or a rubber band or anything really that you can stretch or pull.